Independent School District, Buddy Berry.
My name is Buddy Berry, Superintendent of Eminence Independent Schools from Eminence, Kentucky. We do call ourselves the School on Fire. It's the framework of innovation for reinventing education. We really didn't want a Band-Aid fix. We wanted something that was bigger than us, kind of like the bat symbol. And so we went with strong, bold terms, and so it's just kind of who we are. I will tell you that I am immensely humbled and honored to be on this stage. And I'm going to start today by telling you the same thing that I told my grandfather when I was 22 years old and had just graduated from the University of Kentucky. You see, I am a first-generation educator. And for 150 years prior to me, we had been in the construction business. We had built stuff. And so even though I had a math degree from UK, my grandfather said, "When are you going to start work at the family business?" And I looked at him, and I'll never forget what I said. He's 90 years old, and we just celebrated his 90th birthday. And I remember I told him about this, and he said, "We're still waiting on you." And I said, "Well, do you remember at 22 what I said?" And I said this. I said, "Granddad, I'm going out to change the world. I want to be a world changer." Didn't know what it would look like, didn't know how it would take place, but I went into education. How many of you went in for similar reasons, to be a world changer? And so where I ended up, eventually, after kind of traveling all over the state in various roles as an educator and as a teacher, was back home at Eminence Schools, where my children will be fifth-generation alumni. Our district 5 years ago was in a pretty bad place. They were in a place where I would describe it as dying. We were losing 10% of our enrollment every year. We had 2 mobile devices for the entire district for students and staff. We were in a place where we had no vision, and you could tell that it was suffering. The facilities, the morale, we had no vision. And so I will say that the board went and hired a person 1 year removed from the classroom because they were desperate, and I was passionate about the work and about the school and about what I thought we could pull off. What I will also tell you is after I started down this road of personalized, innovative, blended learning, a colleague of mine from a neighboring district that's a friend, he looked at me and he said, "Is innovation simply a fad?" And I looked at him and I said, "I sure hope not. We're staking our entire school, our entire district, my entire career on the fact that it can work." And as I got thinking about that, I got thinking about different fads that are out there. Let me share with you the newest fad that's out there on the market. How about doppelgangers? How many people have ever heard about doppelgangers? Raise your hand. We've got a smart audience here at Inacall, and for the rest of you, I know you're Googling it and not going to listen to me for the next 30 seconds, but what I will say is that it's anytime somebody unrelated looks exactly like somebody else. There's a belief that everybody has 7 doppelgangers out there in the world, and now there is art dedicated to doppelgangers. There's apps dedicated to doppelgangers. How many of you maybe have seen the Celebrity Twin to Me app, where you can go and scan your face, take a picture, and it'll tell you what celebrity you look like, right? Just don't go. Yeah, there's an app for everything. My 6-year-old this summer found an app that will determine your age. And I said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "We're going to find out how old you are." And I said, "I'll tell you." And so they took the picture, and it said, "Daddy, you're 66 years old." I said, "Yes, in 27 years, yes, I'll be 66. And they said, "And Daddy, you know what's weird is Mommy's only 26. I said, "Don't tell people that in public, right? The doppelganger has even taken over cartoons like Phineas and Ferb, which is one of my favorites. Also, these people were taking the photos together. They did not even speak the same language. They had never met until the day that they showed up for this photo shoot. These people were complete and total strangers to one another, but look how amazingly close and how much they are resembled. I believe the classroom of today has a doppelganger, right? Separated by 150 years, and that doppelganger is that classroom there, right? I believe that the classroom of 1850, even though it's separated by 150 years, has a doppelganger. I believe it has another doppelganger as well, and that's the Ford factory model. We grind them out August to May, right? Year after year, K to 1 to 2. And I'm going to tell you that at Eminence, our job is to blow up all of the doppelgangers that have existed in education for far too long. What I will also tell you is, thank you, how many of you all have ridden the Carousel of Progress now or this week? And if you haven't and you're going to the parks, do. Walt Disney around 1960 made a ride where it rotates through all of the different technological advances, right? And we're literally just about a mile from there right now. It's amazing to be this close because we want to be the Disney World of schools. But imagine going on a ride that looks at the American classroom for the past 100 years. It would not be a very exciting ride, would it? By this point in every presentation that I've ever done, I can look out around the audience and look at every table and know that there are two types of people. Very fortunately, we're at Inacall, and so I kind of know that we'll be predominantly one of the two types. But rather than describe the two types, think of every educator you know when it comes to personalized, innovative learning and see if they don't fit one of these two types. How many people work with a polar bear? Raise your hand if you've got polar bears at work. Hopefully they're not at your tables. I will also tell you the other type is much more my style and looks a little bit like this.
Rock the party.
Penguin. How many penguins do we have in the room today? That's why we love Inacall, right? I will also tell you that my favorite part of that clip, and you'll have to YouTube it when you get home to find out, is the fact that that penguin gets in the face of 13 other penguins with no luck. They all turn their back and walk off, right? I think it's why we love Inacalls, because we're surrounded by penguins that won't run off. Despite whichever type person you end up being, I will tell you that I got into this work to create a map for other districts to follow. My goal was to transform Eminence Independent Schools and create a map for other districts to follow. Do you know what I found out? Is that it will not work. I can't do it. A map mindset does not work. You want to know why? Because I remember back to the Stone Ages when you had to print the directions off of MapQuest. And if you mess up one turn on it, you are lost, right? So now I've developed a compass mindset. And you say, well, what is that? I go and figure out where the destination is that I want to end up. And then no matter what obstacles blow me off track or off course or what wrong turns we take, I know that I'm going there. And I get redirected back to the vision of where we're heading. What I will also tell you is that the best way to sum up what we're doing at Eminence is a story about my son. I was speaking to a gathering like this, and I was speaking to administrators about what fun and engaged learning looks like. And I said, how many of you have ever hired a balloon artist to come in your cafeteria and to surprise your students? And nobody raised their hand. And after it was over, my son comes up. He's 5 at the time, and he says, Daddy, I know we're having a big groundbreaking in our new learning center and our cafeteria renovation, and I want to make the balloon animals for every kid in the school. We have 400 elementary students, and I said, well, Bud, you don't even know how to make a balloon animal. And he said, Daddy, I can figure it out. And I'm thinking in my mind that he's going to be 27 years old living in my basement. And he's going to say, if you just had believed in me with the balloon dogs. So I gave every answer that every great dad has ever figured out. I said, we'll see, right? Months goes by. It's Christmas Day. My kids are opening their stockings at my mom's house, and out of the stocking is a $2 balloon pump and balloon animals that my mom had put in the stocking. I was so mad. I thought, here we go. So we get to the house, and Blaze disappears for about an hour. And he comes down, and he said, Daddy, I got something I got to show you. I said, what do you got, Bud? And he said, look at this. Boom! And he had a balloon dog. And I said, how did you do that? How did you learn to make that animal? He said, Daddy, I just kept twisting till a dog popped out. And I said, well, can you do it again? And he said, I knew you'd say that. And he goes, bam! I said, but can you make 300 to 400 in an hour? He said, I'm going to practice. So he started practicing. A couple months goes by and he says, Daddy, I need somebody to help me. Can I get Landon? This is his other kindergarten cousin, my nephew. And they go in and they train for 8 hours one day. They come back and they said, we can do this. We can make 400. And I said, that's awesome. And Blaze looks at me and he goes, but Landon's only going to make snakes. Can I tell you what that has to do? When we started this work, we did not know how to get the finished product. We kept twisting until we got what we wanted. Right? It wasn't a matter of planning and waiting. It was a matter of getting in there and twisting it. Some of you are going to start twisting and get dogs right away. Others of you are going to twist what you're doing instructionally and you may end up with snakes at first, and that's okay. That's part of this journey to personalized learning. We have a few things that we twist into our instructional framework. We believe every lesson should be filled with surprise and delight, and that kids should not want to go home. We want to be the Disney World of schools. We teach resilience to our staff and to our students through having a yes and philosophy. We refuse to accept no on anything. We also believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that every school and every district must have an intersection of best practice and next practice. You don't just throw the baby out with the bath. You still go and you have formative assessments. You have quality instruction is still quality instruction, but next practice can accomplish the personalization that no other time in history could. We also went, and thankfully to the CCSSO, we used their 6 critical attributes for innovation to be a framework. We believe that it's more of a gauge. Some of you will be heavy student agency. Some of you will be heavy world-class knowledge and skills. We think you need all 6 critical attributes, but they vary in terms of their magnitude at each building, each district, and each site. Also, I will tell you that if you want to say, where do we get started? You get started in defining what you think your graduate should look like. What do you want your students to possess? Skills, knowledge, dispositions, experiences when they leave you, whether they leave 5th grade, whether they leave 3rd grade, whether they leave at 12th grade. What does that look like in terms of defining? Far too many schools have made this the idea of their graduate. They think this is a well-rounded education. How good are your graduates at Trivial Pursuit? That's their idea of some districts believe this is their idea of a well-rounded education. I can tell you that at Eminence, ours is much different than that. My daughter came home to me from school and she was in 3rd grade and she said, Daddy, I want to join the country ham competition. If you're from the north or the west, I apologize. Get some country ham now. But what I will tell you is I am a first-generation teacher from 150 years of construction workers, and I did not know how to help her. And I said, sweetheart, I have no idea how to get you going on this. And she said, oh, it's fine. It's $35. I'll Google it and YouTube it to find out how to do it. She Googles it, she YouTubes it, she enters the state country ham competition. We show up. It's a 12-hour day of just nothing. It's 50% speech and it's 50% the quality of the ham. My daughter, these people were running around with badges that said 7th generation country ham entrant. And so my daughter goes, she enters the competition. There are 900 country hams. She won the state country ham competition. And you say, buddy, why does that matter? Because Eminence students do not have to be content experts. They've got to know where the information is and how to synthesize and apply the information. Our school looks different. We want it to be where kids are going and creating and doing and philanthropy. We want them being bigger than themselves and thinking bigger and larger. We want kids leading teachers, and we want them to be co-learners in the process. We want them to be captivating. We want them to be collaborating. We want them to be digitally responsible. We want mind-blowing instruction. We want them having the Dare to Care cop do his speech while the kids are in the audience fact-checking his data. We want the kids to be able to have internships and opportunities that maybe we didn't. We want it to be hands-on but blended. We want it to be where kids raise in 7th grade $19,000 to buy a service animal for a kindergartner that couldn't afford it. We want the high school seniors building a bridge between the segregated cemetery that they discovered in their own research to build a bridge that has never existed before. We want kids to be out creating and being engaged in their own learning. We want them involved in robotics and hydroponics and building wormholes to other schools. We want them to go out and to change the world in the terms of what they're doing in the classroom experience. We were the founders of the first Wi-Fi bus in Kentucky. It's exciting. It's $40 a month. There's over 3,000 in the state now. It was a result of us thinking through some yes and issues in terms of transporting our kids to early college. You know what the one obstacle we could never think of a solution to until recently that we're going to launch in January is that E-Rate would not let me send out my internet at nighttime to the community where I have 65% free and reduced lunch and most of my kids don't have home access. So guess what we're going to do starting in January? We are going to go, they cannot tell me where to park my buses. We're taking Wi-Fi to the areas of poverty in our community via our buses. We've designed our own competency collector. We've gone and created exemplars of eminence excellence that define what learning should look like at every grade level. You've got to be able to code, video conference. You've got to be able to do those things to get out of kindergarten, right? And what I will tell you is that we are eventually getting to a point that'll be launching in August where we'll have our EdHub, Experimental Da Vinci Hybrid Ultra Biblioteca, where it will be the first time it's a tip to Epcot, that our facility will match our philosophy. We started this talk by going and telling you why I got into education to change the world. I'm going to close by telling you the day that I figured out how. I was a 25-year-old third-year teacher, and I was having zero success in the school that I was in, which was a very rural part of Kentucky. And I decided that it had to be the community's fault, that they weren't ready for the change that I was offering to bring. And so as a 25-year-old idiot, I left and went somewhere else thinking that the new community in inner city Louisville would be much better suited for what I had to offer. And during that time, on graduation night, I had a young man come up to me. His name was Josh Combs. He said, Coach Berry, I was a football coach in another life. Josh played for me. He said, can I go with you to practice at your new job? I said, anytime. Come anytime you want. You see, Josh's story was at his sophomore year, my first day at Owen County Schools, he came up to me and he said, Coach Berry, I just want you to know I'm going to play this season and then I'm dropping out of school. You see, my family's been in farming for 150 years and I don't need a high school diploma to do that. And I said, well, let's talk about it at the end of this semester. And he never came back to talk to me. He not only graduated, but he was valedictorian. You want to know the scary part? He was going to drop out of high school with a 4.0 GPA and a 28 ACT as a sophomore because he knew nothing but farming in his blood. It was July the 13th of 2001. And I had made, this is before smartphones, I had made a list of what I was to do that day. And I was going to call Josh after he woke up around 10 a.m. to remind him of when our practices were and where they were at. On that morning at 7:30 in the morning, I got a phone call and Josh Combs had been killed in a car accident that morning. On that morning, I got another call that said, Coach Berry, would you do the eulogy at Josh's funeral? I'd never lost anybody that I shouldn't have lost before. It was the first time in my life that I truly lost somebody that I should not have lost. And so I went to that eulogy and I went to the visitation and I hid from his mom all night long. And finally she cornered me and I had no idea what to say. And she said, Coach Berry, do you know what Josh did all summer? I said, no, ma'am. I said, but I know it sounds cheesy. I was going to call him Friday. And she goes, he knows you were. She said he worked 2 jobs all summer. He was coming home from his second job when he was killed in his car accident. She goes, do you know why he worked 2 jobs? And I said, no, ma'am. She said he worked 2 jobs because he's booked a hotel room in the city of Louisville for the next 6 weeks to be with you at practice every single day. She said, do you know what Josh wants to be, what he was going to go to college? I said, no, ma'am. She said he wants to be a math teacher and a football coach just like you. I buried Josh Combs on July the 15th of 2001, and that night on a 2-hour drive to Louisville, Kentucky, where I met my new team, I learned what it meant to change the world. You see, I had gone in to be a world changer, but what I should have done was go out to be a changer of worlds. You see, Josh Combs' life was changed because I was a part of it. To Josh, his world truly was changed. You see, that's the power of personalized, differentiated, blended learning, is it's not about systemic change, it's about how many individuals can you change. I will close with this. There's an old man that was on a beach in Florida, and there was about 1,000 starfish that had washed up, and he was throwing the starfish back one at a time, and these 2 teenagers mouthed him as only teenagers could. They said, what you're doing doesn't matter to anybody. And the old man kept going, and they said, oh man, it doesn't matter. You're not making a difference. They're all going to die. And the old man never looked up, and he kept tossing the starfish back, and he said, it matters to this one. He said, it matters to this one. And he said, it matters to this one. Can I tell you something? To be a world changer when you go back to your school and to your district is to be a changer of worlds. Go change one world at a time. That's the power of what we're doing. And while you're here, go out and change as many Josh Combses as you can. Be a world changer today. Thank you.